Tonight on 5 News, Europe in crisis. The EU's ruling body resigns. So who's spending our money? Well, we'll be live in Brussels tonight as the storm continues, and also tonight, the Bristol hospital where 29 babies died unnecessarily. The biggest ever NHS inquiry begins today. And 13 dead and more than 100 injured in an horrific train crash in Chicago. We'll also have all the day's other news and a full sports bulletin as Alex Ferguson prepares to meet Inter.
I think Ronaldo is such a great player, and on his game we can give promise to anyone. He's the best player in the world, and that's a fact. But we hope we can handle it.
But first tonight, the European Union. It costs us £5 billion a year in contributions, £100 for every man, woman and child in Britain. But tonight, it's not clear who's in charge. The whole of the ruling body, the Commission, has resigned en masse over the findings of a report into sleaze and corruption. And our Europe correspondent James Bays has been watching the crisis develop all day, and he's in Brussels now for 5 News. James, what's the very latest as you have it?
Well, Kirsty, this area of Brussels where I'm standing is normally very boring and bureaucratic, but today the atmosphere here has been fever pitch, and that's because the European Union, as you say, is facing the worst crisis of its history. I spoke a very short time ago to the now former Deputy President of the Commission, Sir Leon Brittan. Some people are saying that he might take over an interim role as the President of the Commission. He wouldn't be drawn on that, but he said that something needed to be done, and it needed to be done fast.
So if they've all resigned, who's in charge right now?
Well, we've got the bizarre situation under the rules that the commissioners who resigned late last night so dramatically are also the acting commissioners, and they can't be replaced until the national governments like Britain, France, Germany and the others appoint new commissioners. So we'll have to wait until they appoint those new commissioners for a change here.
James Bays live from Brussels. Thanks very much for joining us. So there we are, turmoil and confusion in Europe. But how bothered should we really be by what's going on in Brussels? Well, here's our political editor, Andy Bell.
The explosive report brought down the commissioners and focused attention on a small group about whom we know little, but who've had a growing influence on our lives. So who are the commissioners? There are 20 of them, including the President, Jacques Santer. They're paid about £130,000 a year. They tend to be politicians who've come to the end of the line in their own countries. The British ones at the moment are Neil Kinnock, former leader of the Labour Party, and ex-Tory Cabinet Minister Sir Leon Brittan. So what do they do? The 20 commissioners act a bit like the government of the European Union. They have responsibilities similar to those of ministers in their home countries, such as transport, trade, and so on. And who voted them in? Well, nobody. Unlike the European Parliament, which is elected, the commissioners are appointed for 5-year terms by their home governments. The Parliament's supposed to keep them under control, and in that contest, this mass resignation is a big defeat for the Commission. So why should we care? Because Jacques Santer and his colleagues control a budget of about £60 billion, and a big chunk of that's come out of our taxes. But most importantly, as last night's drama showed, they are increasingly the centre of power in Europe. National governments may still take most of the big decisions, but more and more, the commissioners control day-to-day business.
Well, Andy Bell is here now, our political editor, to answer a few more questions. You answered some of them there, but one of the questions that occurred to me is surely this must be a gift for all the Eurosceptics out there.
Absolutely. The Conservatives and the Eurosceptics in particular have been saying, well, this just shows that Europe should have far less to do with us, and certainly not anymore. But it's interesting, the Prime Minister's been trying to take the initiative on this, and he's been saying that while he backs the 2 British commissioners and says that the Commission and the President should go, this is actually a fantastic opportunity to overhaul the European institutions, and that was his message to the House of Commons this afternoon.
There will, no doubt, be those who see this as just another chance to bash Europe. Intelligently seen, this is in fact an opportunity to make changes which many of us believe and have argued are long overdue.
Andy, far be it from me to ever assume that a politician has an agenda, but what's actually behind that statement this afternoon?
Well, I think what we have here is a slight attempt to remake Europe in the new Labour mould. The strategy from Downing Street, and I think we'll see a bit more of this at the big summit in Berlin next week, is to have Britain leading the charge to reform the institutions of Europe, to make them more open, more flexible, more modern, a favourite new Labour word. In fact, in a word, to make the European Union look a bit less foreign and a bit more British. Now, if all that works, it'll fit in perfectly with the long-term goal, which is eventually to win that referendum on taking Britain into a single European currency.
New Europe, eh, Sue? Thanks very much. Andy Bell, our political editor there. Now, the biggest ever public inquiry into NHS care began today. The hearing was packed with parents of the 29 babies who died after botched heart operations at the Bristol Royal Infirmary. The first witness was a mother whose daughter died after surgery. She said doctors had given her baby a 95% chance of survival and that no one had told her of the risks. Catherine Jones was at the inquiry.
Guilty was not good enough for some of the parents of Bristol babies. 3 doctors may have been disciplined last year for serious professional misconduct, but it's clear that many more must share the blame. So many children died after heart surgery at Bristol Royal Infirmary that in the grim humour of hospitals, the ward was dubbed the departure lounge. How that remained a secret of the medical profession for so long is the question that this inquiry must answer. Michaela Willis was told her baby's operation had an 80% chance of success, yet as he was wheeled into theatre, a doctor grabbed her hand and burst into tears. Her son didn't survive the surgery.
This is the last stop now, you know, it's taken sort of 4 years to get to this point. We actually want to know why this happened, why these children died, and why some of the children were left brain damaged.
This panel is going to spend 18 months and £15 million finding out why, examining not just the 29 deaths investigated so far, but every single case of child heart surgery at Bristol for 11 years.
We start with a clean sheet, no presumptions, no assumptions. We want to hear from anyone who wants to come and talk to us, whether they write to us, whether they email us, or whether they are called to give evidence.
All the families say they want from this is for no one else to ever have to go through what they have. Catherine Jones, Bristol 5 News.
Well, now for a look at some more stories making the news tonight. An inquest heard today that a student from the top public school, Eton, died as a result of a hanging game that went wrong. Nicholas Taylor, who was 15, was alleged to have been part of a group of students who practiced self-strangulation to get a high. The coroner